I learned how to hear a no, stupid, get out of here, and not take it personally, but rather say what's the lesson to be learned here. And that's what real high performers do. They understand that it's all about the lessons to be learned from that person, place, experience. And they are able to do that because they have learned how not to take things personally. Who is an expert? Some will say an expert is someone who is very knowledgeable. Others will say an expert is someone who excels at something. Someone who does something so well with such ease, grace, finesse, and swag that leaves the rest of us in awe and wonder. In the past, I would say an expert is something I would like to be called, even though I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to be an expert in. Fast forward to this present time, and I would never forget the day I heard Brenda Bashad's definition of who an expert is. An expert is simply a committed servant and a committed student on a given subject matter. That definition just blew my mind. I had never heard anything like that. It was a 180-degree turn from my own concept of who an expert was. A committed servant, a committed student. Experts are leaders, and a real expert is a student leader and a servant leader. Key word there is the word humility. It takes humility to be an expert, a leader, a high performer, because it takes humility to serve when you feel you ought to be served. It takes humility to be a student when you feel you are qualified or overqualified to teach others. Having a student's mindset so we can become those high performers that God has created us to be. Because here's what happens as we begin to make some progress on our journey towards becoming the very best version of ourselves. We start to get a big head. We start to feel like we're very smart, very knowledgeable. We start to feel like know-it-alls. This know-it-all attitude isn't something that we deliberately plan to have and display. It creeps up on us. This know-it-all attitude is displayed or comes to bear when we meet other people who have ideas, beliefs, opinions that differ from ours. We shoot them down. We jump on them, criticize them, and shoot them down, and end up shooting the people in the process. We do this because we believe we know better. After all, we have some results to show. But it's very important that we keep in mind, knowing isn't everything. If it becomes everything, then some people end up as know-it-alls who treat others as know-nothings. Real knowledge isn't that insensitive. To be those high performers that God has created us to be, a key element is how we treat other people, that we treat other people with respect, the same respect that we would like to be treated with. One way that we can show that respect is by respecting their ideas, their beliefs, their opinions, even when they are contrary to ours. We do this because we have that student mindset. We are open to learn. We are humble because we realize one very important truth. Every single person that we meet probably knows something that we don't. If they know something that we don't know, then we can learn from them. We can gain something from them despite the amount of knowledge or wisdom that we believe we have. This principle doesn't just apply to people, it applies to places and experiences. It's humility that helps us to not just learn from people, but also learn from places and from experiences. When we are so focused on how that person didn't greet us first, person said good morning but didn't add sir or ma, despite the fact that we are older than them and more experienced. When we are so focused on everything that was bad with that particular place that we visited, how the weather didn't suit us, how traffic didn't boost our comfort, when we are so focused on everything negative about that experience, the experience didn't entertain us or enlighten us, when we are so focused on our ego, what happens is that we end up missing out on those precious and priceless gems of learning that we could have mined out of those people, places, and experiences. It's this mindset of learning that I had towards my 2020 Lagos City Marathon experience. For us to be able to teach better, for us to be able to teach, we need to be willing to learn. That willingness to learn and decipher from the seemingly lost and dull. That willingness to see the magic in the mundane. To say to ourselves that there is a very powerful lesson to be learned here if we will only take the time to dig deeper and look closer. I like the way Kevin Hart puts it. He says that I learned how to hear a no, stupid, get out of here, and not take it personally, but rather say what's the lesson to be learned here. And that's what real high performers do. They understand that it's all about the lessons to be learned from that person, place, experience. And they are able to do that because they have learned how not to take things personally. They understand that get out is not an insult. It simply means go out. And that when somebody says you are useless, it only simply means you are using less of your potential. If we are going to be those high performers that God has created us to be, then we need to remain open. We need to have that mindset to learn. learn, and to understand that at any point in our journey, feeling like we have arrived or like we know it all is only going to end up being a stumbling block towards that thing that we truly desire, to become the best version of ourselves, to live a life of no excuses, to crush our goals, exceed limits, break barriers, and go on to be a pleasant surprise, not just to those people around us, but to ourselves. It's helpful to remember that true knowledge exists in knowing that we know nothing. A real genius realizes that he or she knows absolutely nothing, and that without humility, there can be no humanity.